All right. And we are live. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome in. Remember, I like to know where everybody is listening to from. So if you guys, as you get in here, if you want to throw up where you are listening from, I always like to see that. I'm going to retweet my live stream and then we are going to get into it. All right. Done and done. Let me put my phone away. I love you too, Tyrone. It's good to see everybody in here. Resident, good to see you. Pakistan, of course. Of course, of course. Ukraine should hire me. I have 1,000+ hours in July 4. Oh, man. If only it meant something. Oklahoma in the house. Nice. Sucky state. That's why Kansas is so fucking windy all the time. So no more military analysis, just hot tub streams. No, I'm gonna do I'm gonna do all of the military analysis stuff. I'm still gonna talk about Ukraine. I'm just not going to do all the 30 minutes of map updates in my live stream. That's the only thing that's changing. The update videos will be more frequent now and will be separate videos on my actual page. So if you guys don't know, I just uploaded a new map updates video. Those will be coming out regularly, quicker than these casual live streams, but I'm going to just be focusing on more of the geopolitical stuff in these live streams. I'll still talk about the military stuff for sure. If there's something specifically happening in Ukraine, I'm going to talk about it. Like I'm going to talk about some of the stuff happening on the map. I'm just not going to go through every single little update in these videos. I do that now in a separate video. So I appreciate all of you guys. Hello from Greenland. Oh, that's interesting. Let's see. Greetings from Germany. Good to see you in here, my German brother. Florida, awesome. From Hungary, beautiful. Evening, Scott. Can you wish my grandpa a happy birthday? Lethal Boozer, which is a hilarious name. I hope your grandpa has the best birthday today. The only birthdays that ever matter are the ones from 0 to 10. And then 15, because that's when you get your learner's permit or license, whatever. And then 21 is the last birthday that matters. And then after that, they don't matter until you're in your 70s. And then every single one matters. So happy birthday. I hope you're having a fantastic birthday. You don't know how many you got left. So just make every single one of them count. All right. Good to know. All right. Just because it's casual calibrated doesn't mean he's gay because God is not. What? Okay, guys. Okay. Lancaster, England. Hi from Germany. Beautiful. You want to go to Venezuela? Yes. I'm putting a team together, boys. I don't know if anybody saw, but there was a juicy $50 million bounty on Murdo's capture. So yes, I am putting a small team together. I am taking applications. I'm looking for some specialists and some wild cards. I'm gonna take a few wild cards with me. So if you guys are interested, hit me in the DMs. We're just putting together a little gang. We're gonna go down there and cause some trouble. All right. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. It is episode 3 of Casual Calibration with your host, Scott. I am, of course, that host. Who else could I be? We have quite a bit to talk about today. Unfortunately, we will be covering the political assassination of Charlie Kirk. I was not a huge Charlie Kirk fan. I mean, I wasn't against him or anything, but we will be talking about that. I say unfortunately because anytime a political activist is killed because of what they think or what they say, I just think it genuinely hurts what America should be built on and what America should stand for, whether you think that's what America actually stands for or, actually represents. Everybody has the right to speak their mind. Everybody is entitled to their opinion, no matter how dog shit retarded your opinion is or may be. I know a lot of you know David D. He has been trying desperately to get my attention on Twitter lately with just the absolute worst takes. It's just awful garbage. But does that mean that that individual doesn't deserve to have the ability to make those terrible, god awful takes? Absolutely not. Anybody who is an American, absolutely, and anybody who is a human, in my opinion, has the right to think critically and to question everything. Nothing should be above questioning, and no person should be silenced for what they are saying unless what they are saying is directly calling for violence against a specific group or something of that nature. Obviously, you can't have people demanding the genocide of a group of people or something like that. Like that's pretty crazy. But just having conversations on college campuses about politics is not something worth shooting somebody over. And unfortunately, we live in a world now where political violence is not only accepted, but unfortunately readily cheered on. I've been quite disgusted by the reaction to this, whether you like the individual or not, whether you completely detest what they say or not. If they're not committing crimes and they are not, like I said, calling for specific violence against somebody, killing them is never really the option. And if you have been paying attention to any of the conflicts around the world throughout the US's global war on terror or what Israel is now doing in the Middle East, you will know that killing somebody because of what they say or their ideas or what they might do is not a way to actually defeat that idea or defeat the person even, because now what Charlie Kirk has become something 4 times larger than what he was, and he was already huge. He was the voice of the younger MAGA group movement, which is quite honestly a very powerful subsection of that movement. I believe that Charlie Kirk was partially responsible for getting Donald Trump elected. Again, whatever you think about that is unimportant. He was a political mover, if you will. And his particular key demographic, young white men in the Republican Party, are lost right now. They do not have a point of reference to aspire to. They do not have, there's nothing to chase. They're told constantly that they are less than minorities or less than women, or they're inherently evil because of the color of their skin or whatever. Whatever these young men hear. And so then they latch on to people like Charlie Kirk. And this particular subsection of this movement is extremely unstable right now. They don't trust Israel. They're really starting to turn against the Trump administration on the whole Epstein issue. They're the group that doesn't like being lied to, and they are consistently being lied to. And when somebody who speaks for that group of people is assassinated for what can only be described as, honestly, fairly centrist communication about politics. I mean, he's not Nick Fuentes out, saying the N-word and, talking about Jews and this and that and everything else. He wasn't that. So to kill him just pushes more people into that category, right? Into that more extremist group. Just for an instance, people around me that I have known for a long time, people that were not necessarily hyper political or, I guess, extreme in their views at all, have been severely pushed by this event. People who thought, that just looked at Charlie Kirk as an innocent individual who was talking, have now been radicalized by this event. And it's only going to continue, and it's only going to deepen, as this continues. And I think the biggest issue in this whole event was not that somebody was assassinated, was not that there was an individual that was crazy and deranged and decided to take matters into their own hands and extrajudiciously kill somebody for their words. I don't think that is necessarily the problem. That is a huge issue, right? There is definitely this tendency towards violence on the left that is not regulated properly, and is, like I said, accepted. And that was really the biggest problem, was not so much that this happened, because it was terrible. Everybody can admit that it was terrible. It was the fact that one side actively tried to justify it. One side, instead of just saying, oh, this should have never happened, nobody should ever be killed for their language. Yes, I don't agree with Charlie Kirk, but I don't think that this is right. That's all that had to be said. And instead, you have people cheering on, and literally as it happened, people in the crowd getting up and turning around to look for who took the shot and cheering for them. That in and of itself is going to push so many people in the opposite direction. And there's this logical inconsistency with the left where they are more willing to use violence, it appears, than the right in America. And that's not to say that the right doesn't use violence at all, but they seem more willing to use excessive violence, like shootings and stuff like that, public assassinations, things of this manner. And I just can't find the logic in assuming that the people with all of the guns and the people with all of the organization and the people with the community, you're going to try to go to war with those people on the grounds of what? Words? I can't rationalize it. It doesn't make sense to me. And this brings me to my deeper thinking on the subject. This brings me to who done it, why did it happen, and looking at what was really going on behind the scenes as this is occurring. I think it's very clear that Charlie Kirk was funded by the Israeli government. I think it is incredibly suspicious that Charlie Kirk had just begun turning against the Israeli government and what they were doing. Multiple videos coming out days before he was killed, where Charlie Kirk is openly questioning what the actions of Israel and questioning Jewish donors. And behind the scenes, as it turns out, was Charlie Kirk was being incredibly pressured by billionaires and a bunch of these other, I would just say, Zionist entities. The pro-Israeli lobby was pushing him very hard to either keep his mouth shut or to, support what was happening in Israel and just sort of turn away from that line of talking, because we've seen it before, especially the Nick Fuentes Goiper wars with Charlie Kirk, where Charlie Kirk was asked multiple times about the USS Liberty at his live events and stuff, and he would always push it away, right? Just push it away, do the Israeli thing, deflect, and just don't talk about it, shut it down and move on to the next question. He did that on multiple occasions. Recently, he hadn't been doing it so much. And in July, he actually had an event where some different speakers came to talk. Tucker Carlson was the key speaker, but Dave Smith, the comic, was also there. And they had an open debate between a pro-Zionist Israeli individual and Dave Smith that went terribly for the pro-Israeli side. So there was just all of this immense pressure coming down on Charlie, as not just this event, but any events he had planned forward. Where he was openly talking about how he was fearing for his life because of what was happening around him. And this does not mean that Israel is responsible. It's hard to find direct links. And I'm not going to come out and just say that Israel is responsible, because that just sounds like boogeyman conspiracy theory nonsense, honestly. And that's not to say that I don't believe it, but without a full logical and evidence-backed argument, I can't really sit here and make this. I can only tell you anecdotal evidence about what was said around him and reports coming out from what has happened since. I do find it incredibly suspicious that the president of Israel came out almost immediately after he was shot and was tweeting about him. I've never seen a foreign leader do that so proactively. I find that incredibly suspicious. I also find it incredibly suspicious that just days before this event happened and Charlie Kirk was killed, Benjamin Netanyahu had personally called Charlie Kirk and offered to completely fund his entire organization, which Charlie Kirk had denied. So it creates a lot of suspicion for me. I have another little piece of this puzzle, which I think is very, very important that we talk about. And this happened mere minutes after Charlie Kirk was shot. So as Charlie Kirk was bleeding out, as all that chaos was unraveling, this was happening. And I think that this is vitally important to pay attention to. The Senate GOP, so the Republicans in the Senate, defeat Chuck Schumer's Epstein gambit, which I don't think it's Epstein gambit. They were just voting on to see if the Epstein files would be released. This happened the same day Charlie Kirk was killed, by the way, the same exact time period. Senate Republicans voted to set aside an amendment from the New York Democrat that would force the Justice Department to release files. Senate Republicans defeated a surprise attempt by Minority Leader Chuck Schumer on Wednesday to force a vote demanding the Justice Department release the Jeffrey Epstein files. The Senate voted 51-49. So this close to having them come out. They will probably come out eventually, all redacted and with no actual information in them, to table Schumer's measures to direct Attorney General Pam Bondi to make public any available document that the Justice Department possesses related to the late convicted sex offender and his associate, Senator Josh Halloway of Missouri. Senator Josh Halloway of Missouri and Rand Paul of Kentucky voted with Democrats against tabling the measure. So you have Republicans going across the aisle to try to get this to come out. But surprise, surprise, I bet you guys didn't even hear about this. Unless you follow me, I bet this wasn't even news for you. And this is another thing that I find very coincidental and very interesting in the timing. You have the entire MAGA youth base, anybody that Charlie Kirk connects with, basically, in terms of his demographic, shifting away from Israel. This is very bad. And this is why Israel is, in my opinion, Israel is acting the way that they are currently acting on the global stage. The boomers are dying. The boomers are the last generation that unquestioningly supports the Israeli lobby through and through. They're dying. They're not going to be voting anymore. They're not going to be paying taxes anymore. They are gone. That is Israel's base in the United States. The younger millennial and down generations, they don't fuck with Israel in the same way. They're not. So Israel is on the clock in terms of America's unyielding and unwavering support. I think that they are pulling out all of their stops when it comes to their blackmail operations. I think that they are acting extremely overly aggressive in their region for this exact reason. They need to complete this ethnic cleansing. They need to complete this genocide. They need to put Iran into a place where they can never come back, even without U.S. support. Israel without U.S. support. They need Iran in ruin. They need to be able to dominate the region with chaos, right? So you're about to lose this demographic. How could you possibly save it? Well, one of the ways that I could foresee this panning out, because if you think about who Charlie Kirk is not a decision maker. He is not a policy, decider in any sense of the word. He is just a talker. He is just a face. He is just the billboard for the young Republican Party right now. If you were to get some incel, libtard, 22-year-old, no chin having, waste of space, human garbage with no future and no prospects, if you could get somebody like that to, I don't know, take a shot at the president or take a shot at Charlie Kirk, an individual who has almost no connections to anybody, nothing going for them in their lives, and they can just be disappeared, right? That's who you want as your, whether it's the actual shooter or the scapegoat or whatever it is, right? These are the individuals you want. We saw it with the Trump assassin. He was in a BlackRock commercial 6 months before he did this. Before he shot at Trump, he was killed immediately. They went to his apartment and he had nothing in his apartment. Similar story with this kid. There's been very, very little news about him. He's not as quite of a, ghost as the Trump shooter was, but he is still non-existent almost to a degree. And it's just the, I don't know how else to explain it. It's just the type. It's just I knew what he looked like before they knew who it was. because for days they didn't know, or for a couple of days they didn't know who had shot him. They had some pictures and stuff, which, by the way, the pictures don't even really match up. There's so much wrong with this entire event. I do not believe that it was not orchestrated. I believe that it was fully orchestrated. I do not understand. I don't think that this was just a lone wolf attack. I think that there is reason behind it, and the reason is quite easy to see, I think. Right? You don't want him talking bad about Israel. You want Americans mad at other Americans. You don't want Americans teaming up against the Israeli lobby. You don't want the Americans teaming up against Trump right now. You don't want that negative press. Charlie Kirk dies, and immediately what happens? Oh, it's the problem with the left. The left is dangerous. The left is they're killers. This, that, or the other, which, while maybe true, detracts from the actual people you should be mad about. And I say this quite frequently. They always try to distract you. They'll always try to throw shit in your face. They'll try to make you hate your neighbor, and they'll try to make you hate anybody that they can control. Basically, they want the groups that they control to hate each other, because if you are working together with the people next to you, none of the shit that they got going on works out. Right? So they want you pissed at your liberal friends, at your Republican friends. They want you pissed at each other. They want you fighting. They want you mad. They want you angry, because your anger is easy to control. And this is what I always say when these events happen. Don't immediately jump on the first bit of news that confirms your bias. Don't immediately get mad at somebody just because you think that they're the ones responsible, or you think that they're bad, or this, that, or the other. Just take a deep breath and understand the bigger picture, and understand how somebody could be using this against you. I implore all of you to do that in your day-to-day lives. And this goes for events outside of political assassinations domestically. This goes for international events. This goes for everything. The government does not want you to be knowledgeable. They do not want you to have a sense of reason or logic. They want you angry. They want you manipulatable, and they want you stupid. And they're achieving that daily. And they throw as much information at you as possible to confuse you and to get you questioning every single aspect of your life, other than questioning who's running every single aspect of your life. Okay? All right. Sorry. That was a little rant. Got a question here. Rumors that Israel did it as Charlie was starting to change his views on Gaza situation, especially in a podcast with Ben Shapiro. Yeah. And it's also incredibly suspicious that the pro-Zionist Jew, Ben Shapiro, is the one who instantly steps up and says, I'm going to take over for Charlie Kirk now on these campus debates. Dude, nobody wants you there. Nobody wants to hear your bullshit opinions. Everybody's just going to ask you about Israel, and you're not going to answer the questions. So again, you have all of these things back to back to back to back. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. I'll let you guys make all of your own decisions on where this is coming from and what intention it was meant to have. But I'm not going to be so easily fooled or pushed in the wrong direction. I have never personally in my entire life seen a leader of a foreign nation go on TV and allow a reporter to ask them a question about the assassination of a political voice in another country. Benjamin Netanyahu went on and related it to blood libel and Holocaust denial, which when Benjamin Netanyahu gets on TV and starts talking about the Holocaust, I'm fucking for sure he's lying. I'm sure that motherfucker is lying, right? The only time he brings that up is when he's done something so bad that he has to cover his tracks with Jews that died 90 years ago in the Holocaust or 80 years ago in the Holocaust. That rubs me the wrong way so unbelievably. Even just relating it to that is just miserable and horrible. But the fact that you come out and you publicly deny that you had uh, involvement in a foreign assassination of a why say anything at all? You know why he came out and said everything? Because everybody's saying that Israel did it. Everybody and their mom knows exactly who did it. Even my mom, who is not really that kind of person, came to me and said, "Do you think Israel killed Charlie Kirk for what he was saying?" And I was like, "Mom, I listen, I know I talk to you a lot about this stuff, and I'm not the biggest fan of Israel. But I never expected my mom to take that sort of turn. She really liked Charlie Kirk, and one of the people radicalized by this event. I'll tell you what. Yeah, it was pretty shocking and jarring to see somebody killed like that as well. This is something that I have to relate to my world because I see horrific events every day. Like, unfortunately for me, watching Charlie Kirk get shot was like a Monday morning. And that's horrific to say. And I hate that I am able to say that. But it's just, I'm so kind of cold to all of it. That stuff doesn't necessarily get to me on the same level. And it was eye opening to watch everybody around me be exposed to the level of mental trauma. I wouldn't call it trauma, but that I've been exposed to just working and covering all of the conflicts that I have and everything. It was eye opening. It just brought me back to reality and showed me how disassociated I am from, normal people and what normal people experience in their lives. So that was kind of interesting. Thank you for your question. Okay. So that's my thoughts on the Charlie thing. Political violence is never going to resolve the issues that you want it to. So anybody thinking about, going and getting theirs or getting back or whatever, it doesn't ever do what you want it to do. The guy who assassinated the Archduke, Mr. Ferdinand in Austria, do you think that he thought that the world was going to go into a world war over that? Do you think that that was his intended consequence for that action? Do you think that this person thought that Charlie Kirk would be a martyr now, a hero among the young right? He's going to be everywhere. I don't get what the thought was behind it. And this is another reason that I think that it's something bigger and badder behind it, because the only thing that it does is pits Republicans against Democrats at a time where the government can't have everybody agreeing that the government is doing shitty things and ruining our country. Right. So I'm suspicious, to say the least. I'm suspicious of our Israeli-controlled government. I'm suspicious of the Israeli government and Benjamin Netanyahu, who came out and immediately both commented on the event immediately, like within minutes of him being shot, which is just a crazy thing. And then secondarily, him going on his own controlled network and allowing the anchor to ask him whether he was involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which is just, I've just never seen anything like that in my lifetime. And I just can't put words to it. That it's a crazy event to watch him come out and talk about it and say it's another lie, it's another attack on Israel, as if Charlie Kirk has just been the most pro-Israeli guy as of recently. And of all the people for an anti-Semite to attack, probably not the guy who's beginning to change his mind. Like, what? It doesn't even make sense. He was arguing with Ben Shapiro that Israel's not doing the right thing. And you're telling me that now he's going to get killed for anti-Semitic reasons? Like, come on, dude. Doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense. Yes, he was. He was definitely changing his tone on Israel. You can go look at the videos. There's like 30 of them in the last like 2 months. Ever since that event in July where he literally had Dave Smith on and he was talking about the events in Israel. He's still defending Israel because he's still paid by them, but his opinions were definitely shifting. For sure. For sure they were. The fact that he's even talking about it instead of just shutting it down, it shows that the pressure from his own base was getting to him to communicate about what was going on with Israel. What you can not think that if you want. I don't give a shit. It was clear as day. He was not answering questions about Israel, and then he was having open debates about Israel where Israel was getting dumpstered. Those are two completely different realms of willingness to talk about an issue for sure. So another day, another Mario Bro move. Are you talking about the Kupiansk hole? We're going to talk about that too in a little bit. I'm actually going to go over some map stuff now. We'll take a little detour. That was 30 minutes of talking about Charlie Kirk, but we will talk about some of the map stuff. I'm just going to go over this real quick for you guys, for my Ukraine boys out there, just so you guys can see. We have some advances. And remember, I just did a 30-minute video on this. If you want an in-depth analysis, you can go find that in my videos section on my YouTube page. But we can see here that there has been a 35 square mile advance over the past 10 days. By Russian forces in the Zaporozhye and Dnepropetrovsk regions. This is pretty significant. This is a crazy advance. And just so you guys can get an idea of what's going on here, Velika Novosilka is now 17 miles into the rear, so 40 kilometers now into the rear, or 30 some kilometers into the rear. And then you have Ugledar, which is now 40 miles in the rear, which is about 66 miles now behind the front line. So if people say the front line isn't moving, but this is where Ugledar is. You can see how fast the front has moved in this direction out from Ugledar. You can also see how fast the front has moved from Velika Novosilka. And now they're going to begin to put pressure on Holyai-Polye, which I had predicted and talked about, one of the crossroad villages. The Russians are going to begin to put pressure on that village. And then the exact same thing that happened in Velika Novosilka will happen around Holyai-Polye, where the Russians will advance out. And then the map will begin to look something like this, where this whole section of the Zaporozhye region and the entire southern Dnepropetrovsk region from Pokrovsk on will be under Russian control. So this is something to pay attention to. Big Russian advances in the southern Donetsk, Zaporozhye, Dnepropetrovsk region. Small Russian advances around Minharad. There's a lot of pro-Ukrainian talk that the Russians in Kucherev Yar have been cut off. That's not true. That's not a real thing. They're just making it up. There's no maps that corroborate this information, no geos that corroborate this information. So no, the map is just kind of staying like this. There's a lot of fighting going on here, no doubt, but the Ukrainians have not cut off the Russians. There's nothing like that happening. And I did talk about that in my other video too. Small Russian advance here near Konstantinivka, nothing significant. Here's where we have some of the more major advances. The entire Liman front is moving pretty significantly, and this is going to cause some major problems here soon, especially over here in Shandorlove. Once Shandorlove falls and these other villages to the south, Novoselivka, fall, and the Russian forces are able to close off this pathway from the Severodonetsk River to Liman, that is going to put immense pressure on Liman. Also remember that Stavki is on the high ground here. So as Russian forces advance south, Stavki is the last remaining high ground defensive location for the Ukrainians. Once that falls, the Ukrainians will be stuck in low ground Liman with the river at their back. Again, over here, Russian forces have basically captured all of the Serbiansky forestry and have entered into the southern end of Yampil here, which will put a lot of pressure on the Seversk salient after this road right here is cut. So yeah, lots happening. Moving up to Kupiansk. Kupiansk is half captured by the Russians. The Russian forces have captured all of the high-rise buildings up in the northern edge of town here. The hospital is now in the gray zone. The western half of Kupiansk is falling pretty quickly to the Russians. There was also a correction of the map. I don't know how the map over here looked as much. I had pulled it back based off of previous geolocations of Ukrainians in this area. But we do have confirmation now that the Russians are in the eastern portion of Kupiansk, and there are There is a pipe operation happening in this region where the Russians are using pipes, again, some sort of civilian infrastructure to move logistics across the Oskil River and keep both areas logistically supplied. So that is what's happening in the Kupiansk sector. All right, that's it for map updates. If you guys want to see a full map update, I did a 30-minute video that is on my profile. You can go watch that after this. We have some questions, though. Unless Charlie had some dirt on Israel. No, I don't think he had dirt on Israel. I think that he had a lot of sway and a lot of power. And I think that he was taking a fuckload of money from Israel. I think this was the biggest issue, was that he was taking so much money from Israel. His organization was for years. This is nothing new. This is a normal thing in a lot of U.S. Political groups is AIPAC, and the Israeli lobby has a bunch of money invested into these different groups, especially in the Republican Party. So this is I don't think he had to have dirt on them. I think that he had pull. I think that he was going to start saying things about Israel that was going to really affect his demographic, and that was going to force Israel into a much worse position. And with him dead, he's quiet. He is a martyr now for the Zionist cause. They can use it however they want. And Americans are pissed off at Democrats and libs and, the anti-Palestine movement, the transgender movement. It's just easier to keep everybody mad at each other. If everybody's mad and everybody's fighting, again, you're not paying attention to who's fucking you in the ass. And we all know who's doing it, right? So keep being mad at the other broke ass person across the street who's just struggling to make it through their day-to-day life, right? That's who they want you mad at, not at the billionaires who are screwing you every single turn. I sound like a communist. Ben Shapiro is taking over TPUSA. Coincidence? I don't think that. Again, I don't think TPUSA is going to be what it is without Charlie Kirk. If the Zionists, if they take it over entirely, it's just not going to be the same thing. You have to. The pro-Israeli, pro-Zionist lobby doesn't have on the surface doesn't have the influence that they had, that they used to. You can't convince people in America to do things for Israel now. Like that's not the position that Americans are in anymore. We're sort of fed up with it. So if things are happening for Israel kind of quietly, we're not maybe paying as much attention, but vocally things happening that are pro-Israel are not going to go over well. So yeah, I don't think that Ben Shapiro taking over is going to be particularly helpful for that organization. Thank you for your super sticker, Graham. I appreciate it. Thoughts on Stefrogos south of Zaporozhye City microdistrict was taken by RU. Yeah, I haven't done that update yet. I was going to do it just right after I got done with this. I actually forgot. Sometimes I don't get over to this side of the map and I just miss updates. But Russian forces have advanced out of this school. They have full control over the school, and they have advanced into the southern part of Stepnohrisk, right here, which is south of the Zaporozhye city itself. So again, Russians are moving in this area, but this area is closest to Ukrainian logistics. So I would just not expect a ton of movement down here. All right. Thank you guys for your questions. I appreciate it. All right. I had a couple more things to talk about. So we can go ahead and move into let's talk about Venezuela. So you guys saw the strike on the narco boat that the U.S. conducted. I talked about it in my last live stream. I talked about how it was a slippery slope, how extrajudiciously killing people that you think are potentially breaking the law in international waters is not a good idea. It's something that will come back and bite Americans in the ass. It's something that our government should not be doing. I was very vocal about this. A lot of people made fun of me. They're like, you're protecting narco, drug runners. I'm like, no, I could give a shit about those, the criminals. Like, it's not about that. It's about the U.S. doing something that it's not supposed to do And that something will indefinitely have, I'm sorry, will, is indefinitely the, no, will definitely have consequences on Americans. Without a doubt, there will be some repercussion towards an American at some time, probably will get them killed. And everybody will just go, I mean, you did it. You remember when you killed those 11 people in that narco vessel off the coast of Venezuela? And that's what we're going to talk about today. And there's a specific reason why I talked about it. And here it is. So this is from the Intercept. Pentagon barred senior House staffers from briefing on Venezuelan boat strike. A former Pentagon official says U.S. forces went out and committed murder in a drone strike off the coast of Venezuela. Now, you always have to be careful with this stuff because obviously it's going to be bias. Obviously, somebody is pushing a political narrative, probably anti-Trump. So you have to be careful when reading any of this. But this is pretty telling, to say the least. So here we go. The Department of War, which is good that they changed it to the Department of War because they weren't doing any defense when they conducted this strike, is thwarting congressional oversight of the Trump administration's attack on a boat off the coast of Venezuela earlier this month. Senior staff from House leadership and relevant committees were barred by the Office of the Secretary of War from attending a briefing on the attack last Tuesday, according to three government sources who spoke on the condition of anonymity. It's always on the condition of anonymity. Nobody can know who I am. The military cited alternative compensatory control measures, the term for enhanced security procedures designed to keep information under wraps. Why do you need to keep this information under wraps? You conducted a strike on narco terrorists, did you not? Is that not what you did? Is that not what you so proudly posted and boasted about? Right? So why are you keeping it under wraps? The War Department has attempted to conceal numerous details about the attack that killed 11 people. By the way, I don't know what this 11 people nonsense is. You can see the boat right here. It's not a big boat. The engines are right here. A person is about the size of the engine. It looks like there's 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 people on this boat. I don't know where this 11 number comes from. Ridiculous to me personally, but in the Caribbean, including the fact that the vessel altered its course and appeared to have turned back towards shore prior to the strikes. So they weren't running drugs to the United States, were they? No, they were just operating a boat off the Venezuelan coast. Is it the U.S.'s job to deal with narco drug running off the coast of Venezuela in international waters that has nothing to do with the United States? Even if it had something to do with the United States, it's not actually a U.S. problem until it reaches the border. Why not just protect your borders? Why not have all of those ships surrounding the U.S. coastline and striking those ships that are trying to come into the U.S.? Why are you doing this off the coast of Venezuela? I'll tell you why. Because it has nothing to do with narco and it has everything to do with regime change in Venezuela. Don't be dumb, guys. Just pay attention, okay? Caribbean, including the fact that it altered its course and appeared to be turning back towards shore prior to the strikes. Men on board were said to have survived the initial strike. The Intercept reported last week they were then killed shortly after by a follow-up strike. So not only did we kill these people, but as they were struggling to swim in the open ocean, we struck them again and double tapped and killed everybody on the vessel. Can't have witnesses, right? You can't have people talking about the event at all. But interesting that the government didn't show us that double tap strike. They didn't show us the guys struggling in the water to swim and survive. No, they just showed the innocent killing of 11 people extrajudiciously without any reason. It's kind of a problem. I'm incredibly disturbed by this new reporting that the Trump administration launched multiple strikes on the boat off Venezuela. Representative Sarah Jacobs, a member of the House Armed Services Committee subcommittee on Intelligence and Special Operations, said the Intercept's coverage, they didn't even bother to seek congressional authorization, bragged about the killing, and teased more to come, which is exactly what they did. And to this point, people openly came out and accused JD Vance of committing a war crime, and JD Vance came out publicly and said, I don't give a shit what you call it. They're just openly committing war crimes now, and they just don't care. right? Because you don't care. Because you don't care enough to go read in depth or pay attention or understand why events are happening and what reason they're happening for. And I don't mean you. I just mean Americans, right? If 90% of us are too lazy and stupid, and I don't mean like stupid like you don't have the intelligence capacity, lazy and not willing to go figure out why and who's lying to you for what reasons, they're going to keep lying to you and they're going to keep stealing from you and they're going to keep you down. That's what they're going to do. You have to be informed and you have to be a critical thinker at all times when it comes to this stuff. This is a war crime. This is a war crime outside of a war. It's just a crime. It's a crime against international law in international waters. That's all this is. And the reason why I made such a big deal about this, and I'm going to take us over to my Twitter now, is because we saw another event that happened inside of Venezuelan territorial waters, which I'm now going to show you guys. Here we go. So here we have Arleigh Burke class destroyer intercepting a Venezuelan fishing vessel. This is not narco. This is not anything. This is a fishing vessel in Venezuelan territorial waters. So now you have the U.S. disrupting the economic, viability of Venezuela even further outside of the sanctions and everything. Now you have them boarding Venezuelan fishing vessels. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, this is what the Chinese do in the South China Sea. Like, this is not like this doesn't make any sense. They're just fishermen. So I'm going to play this video, and because they boarded this vessel, not because of the obvious international laws and rules that it breaks, but the reason I'm showing you this is because when we go back and we look at the narco strike, why was that necessary? If you have the capabilities of rolling up on these vessels and boarding them and checking them out, why did you have to extrajudiciously kill 11 people like that? 11 people. I think 4 people. Why did you extrajudiciously have to kill those individuals? You didn't. You did it for a show. You did it for propaganda. You did it to get everybody bloodthirsty. That is fucking disgusting. That is miserable. That is why people chant death to America. I was actually having this conversation with my mom, and she was talking about, and I don't mean to bash my mom. My mom is a very smart lady. We talk all the time. She's very open-minded and she's awesome. She was talking to me about how the Iranians were chanting death to America. And I was like, Mom, why do you think that people are chanting that? Why do you think that people celebrate when bad things happen to America? Why do you think that? Why do you think the Palestinians cheered for different events at different times? Like, well, why? Because we've been killing them for generations. We've been putting them down for generations. Like, we bombed Iran. Did Iran bomb the United States? No. Why do you think they're saying death to America? Why? Because we're doing all of this stuff around the world and destabilizing South America, putting Venezuela into some black hole pit like Iraq was, is not going to benefit the United States in any shape or form. And if you think that, you really need to self-analyze and come to some wiser conclusions, because you've already seen examples of this time and time again, of the US going in, regime changing, doing some strike campaign, doing something, and it never works out the way we want it to, ever. And Venezuela is close to home. So those problems are going to come home. I promise you. I promise you that's going to happen. What would be your solution to the ongoing refinery strikes? How efficient is Russian air defense in intercepting drones and missiles? AMK said it was 98%. I have a hard time believing. No, I think that that's very real. What do you see? You see 3 refineries hit a week, something like that-ish in these drone attacks. The Ukrainians are launching 200 plus drones a night. Like that is 2%. You're seeing 2% of the drones get through. And again, you want to talk about what needs to be done? Look at what happened in Poland a couple of days ago. A couple of decoy drones got through and penetrated halfway into the country, literally to Warsaw. there were drones penetrating. So it's not a what do they need to do? They're actually doing a very good job. They're intercepting a lot of these drones at the line of contact as they're flying over with interceptor drones. A lot of them are being taken down. And honestly, the impact on the refineries is being way over exaggerated. The Russian military doesn't even run on gasoline. This is just a domestic issue, really. If there's any increase in gasoline prices, and I'm pretty sure the Russians are still paying much, much less for gasoline than I am. Gasoline around here is now $3.20 a gallon. Like, what are we talking about, dude? No. So yeah, no, I don't think that anything really needs to be done. I think a lot is being done. And I think this is just something that you kind of have to accept, that 200 drones get launched. It's impossible to track and take down every low flying drone. They come in different patterns and different organizations, and some are just going to get through. And you know that this is the truth because it happened to Israel. Some drones got through. Yemen launches of like 2 drones every now and then, and sometimes they penetrate Israeli air defense. So no, it's not a what do they need to do. There's not even really any super huge negative consequences coming out of this. It's not going to overly impact Russia in any significant way. It's not moving the marker, if you will, in terms of the war. It's just putting the Ukrainians in a worse negotiating position and actually hurting the Ukrainians quite significantly because now they're having all of their oil and energy infrastructure struck. So good question. But yeah, so I was done with Venezuela. I kind of interrupted myself there, but Venezuela is just a hot mess, right? And anybody, you really should not be cheering on anything going down in Venezuela. That would not be a good look for the United States right now, and it would not help us in any way. So, bro, how do you explain the U.S. Explaining Russia allowing the U.S. to come watch the exercise in Belarus? I'm pretty sure most exercises like that are open, and honestly, it appears that relations between Belarus and the United States are warming, which doesn't really make sense because they're talking about raising the sanctions on Russia. I don't know what the idea is, but it just looks like Belarus is getting a lot of pressure relieved from them, and that's fine. I don't see the issue. Belarus is not going to leave the Russian sphere of influence. Belarus has Russian nukes stationed in the country. Nothing is happening in Belarus. 3 advisors from the U.S. came to an open military exercise, which is allowed. This is nothing new. So, nope, they just went. So they got to go witness what they could have witnessed via video camera. I mean, it's not like they're seeing anything special. It's exercises. It's pretty publicly available stuff. All right. I have one more thing that I want to talk about. One last article. NATO should impose a no-fly zone over Ukraine to protect against Russian drones, Poland said. So this is part of the whole Russian drones in Poland. And this is why I'm super cautious about this information. Anytime a nation state or individual uses an event to instigate or to try to extend control and power, I'm immediately suspicious. The fact that every drone that entered into Poland was a decoy drone makes me extremely suspicious. The fact that the drones, the fact that the Russians really have no reason to do this. They're not testing NATO air defense. That's not a test of NATO's air defense, right? You don't test somebody who's not expecting you to do anything, right? With a few drones that are almost invisible to radar and, have no real consequence. If you're going to test an air defense, you're going to test an air defense and actually make them shoot at your drones and all of this. It was just a handful, 12 drones that entered the country or something at the most. And to me, Russia doesn't have anything to gain from doing that. I think it allows the Polish to do exactly what they're doing, which is utilize it for propaganda, anti-Russian propaganda, and propaganda, anti-Belarusian propaganda. And it allows NATO to, again, start to talk about things like no-fly zones, which we know is just a loser definition. A no-fly zone is just what a loser of a conflict says when they have no other options because they can't actually win. They tried to do that in Syria, didn't work. They tried to do it in Ukraine multiple times over the years, hasn't worked. It's not going to work now. You can't enforce a no-fly zone without shooting down Russian missiles, Russian planes, stuff like that. So it's not going to happen. But it allows these conversations to take place, and it allows the propaganda to move in this direction, and it allows your enemy to use the event in a way that does not support or advance Russia's position. I don't know why the Russians would do this intentionally. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me, unless the Russians are just at the point where they're figuring nothing is going to work and you might as well just start poking and harassing, which we should see more of that here in the coming days. If this is a new policy shift from the Russians, we should see increased numbers of drone incursions, which isn't really a new thing. They constantly have drones entering into Polish and Romanian airspace. This is nothing new. They do it regularly when they're attacking Ukraine, but this one was blown immensely out of proportion and is now being used for anti-Russian rhetoric reasons. So that makes me suspicious. But yeah, that's all I had to talk about. If you guys had some conversations that you wanted to get into, we can discuss some stuff for a little while. Let me know. Go ahead and get your questions in. If you guys, thank you for all the super chats. I really enjoy the super chat questions. I like putting them up. I like everybody seeing the question that I get to use. Sometimes I do it over here, but I don't see anybody really asking a lot of questions right now. So. Scott, you should read Hans Hope. Okay, I will. Scott likes super chat shekels. No, I mean, it makes it feel like the live stream is worth it when you guys care enough to send those. Like it does really make it feel like all the work that I put in for these live streams is worth it. I woke up at 5 this morning, and I've been just on my computer working, doing map updates, doing geolocations, finding articles. I recorded my earlier video for you guys. This is an hour-long live stream. So, I mean, I've been working since 5 a.m. That's a 8-hour day already just for this. So yeah, I really do like the super chats. It's not about the money. It's just cool because if I was watching something and I wanted to show them that I cared, that's exactly what I would do. I would do $5 and I would say, thank you for all of the fucking free content. And I have done this. I do this all the time. I go into other live streams and I donate and stuff, or Twitch streams or whatever, because I get hours of free content from these people. And just to see that you guys are in here, even just the regular chats, like not even the super chats, just that you guys talking in here, you care enough to be in here regularly. It's so fucking cool. And it makes me so happy, and it makes me want to do this. It's the only reason I want to do this is because you guys are in here. So thank you guys. Literally, sometimes I'm like, I'm not going to do a live stream. I don't even want to do a live stream right now. The news is shitty. I don't want to go on and get angry and do a live stream and sit there for an hour. And then I think about you guys and the fact that you are wanting to see a live stream and that you guys want to hear my stupid garbage opinions about everything. So I really do appreciate that. It's really fantastic to come on here and have that kind of community supporting you. Appreciate you guys. We like it when you yap, Scott. Well, good, because that's all I do. That's all I fucking do is yap. All right. Love watching the streams. You got good takes. Well, I appreciate it, man. I try to do the best that I can, and I hope that it appeals to your guys' senses in some way. Achilles, ask your question if you have a question. Or did I miss it? I might have missed it. I'll go back and look. Call up History Legends for a live stream one day. I should hit him up. I haven't talked to him in forever. He's a good guy. He literally comments on my Instagram posts sometimes. I'll post like a gym picture and he'll comment, dude. He's so great. He's funny. He's a funny guy. Why does Brian Berletic allow Twitter comments? Because he's so sick and tired of dealing with retarded, hot garbage takes all day. He is me if I had been doing this for another decade. So I have no. Brian deals with some of the stupidest fucking people I've ever met. Like I deal with NAFO, and those people are just genuinely retarded, and so you never really take him seriously. Brian has academics coming at him with just the most hot garbage nonsense you've ever seen, and I don't blame him for just not wanting to deal with it. He's not big on Twitter anyway. It's not like he does a lot of Twitter posting, so he just doesn't want to deal with all the shit, and I don't blame him. A lot of right wingers believe the Nepal protests are organic. It's hilarious. Yeah, there's no protests that are organic, guys. I'm sorry. There's just no organic protests. Anytime you see a large gathering of over 1,000 people, it was orchestrated, planned, and funded. There is no organic protest like that, especially when the military is cracking the fuck down on these people. It's always orchestrated and organized. It has to be, or else it would just get destroyed. Like some do. You do see organic protests, and they don't last very long. They get the boot to the neck immediately. Mm-mm. Some are oregano. True. Who do you think funded the ones in London? There's a bunch of different groups in London that could easily organize and fund those. There's a bunch of groups in all over the place that would like to fund. Anytime you see a protest, it is societal uproar, right? It is not good for the state to have protests happening. So there are multiple groups that would want protests in the United States, in London at any given time, just for the reason of chaos unfolding, right? Let alone a particular interest group like an anti-immigration group, a more right group, anything like that can put on any sort of protests anywhere, right? There is a huge portion of Great Britain that doesn't like what the government is doing, right? The British government. So it's easy to find funding and organization for riots against people who are not doing what a majority of what people want to do. I'm sorry. It is easy to find money and organization for protests against a government that are not working in the interests of the people who are protesting. It's like Maidan, right? Like Maidan in Ukraine. Like there were genuine feelings that were going around that were anti-government sentiment, right? This is not there is an organic feeling to it, but the reason why it has its staying power and the reason why it works in actually causing change is because it is funded and organized. That's the difference. If NATO decides to intervene in this conflict, do you see more trench warfare? I don't think NATO is going to intervene in this conflict. I think that if NATO intervenes, it immediately turns into a nuclear war. There's just no chance that NATO soldiers are dying in Ukraine to Russian munitions, and it doesn't immediately escalate. Right? Is the U.S. going to use bases in Poland for or is NATO going to use NATO bases in Europe for deployment and logistics into Ukraine? They're legitimate targets. It's a nuclear war. It just doesn't work, right? This is why I've said the entire time that there will not be NATO involvement unless the war comes to a ceasefire. Or just missile exchanges like Israel, Iran. No. Again, if they just start exchanging missiles, it's just a nuclear war. Because what happens when a U.S. aircraft carrier gets sunk? That's 5,000 American sailors and what would be considered a U.S. city getting destroyed by Russian fire, right? That's a nuclear. You've hit the nuclear threshold. So no. The West can't tolerate casualties. End of story. This is also true. This is also very true. Question. This is probably the last question I'll do for now, I think. Yeah, I'll wrap it up after this, I think. 5,000 people in here today. Very cool. Why don't British citizens ask themselves why Israel forced all of these people out of their countries and created the immigration crisis? Because that's way too much thinking. What are you talking about? You just did more thinking than 90% of human beings on the planet will ever do. Why would you want people to think through 3 steps? Wait, Israel did something bad over there, and that bad thing forced those people out of their homes, and then those people that were forced out of their homes came to my country, and now my country is suffering because of what they're doing. No, that's too many steps, dude. No. It's our government's fault for letting these people in. It has nothing to do with our foreign policy decision making. No. Don't want to hear it. That sort of seems like that's what I think, at least. All right. All right, guys. Thank you so much. This has been episode 3 of Casual Calibration. I really do like these. Be sure to check out my new Ukraine map update video. That is on my page. You can find that. Just go click videos. It should be the newest video uploaded. I really appreciate you all in here. Like I said, I thank you all so much for your super chats. Like I said, we had 5,000 people in here today, which is that's actually higher than normal for my live stream. So I really appreciate everybody tuning in and checking out the live stream. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you have not done so far. If you are old here, you should have already liked and commented, but if you haven't, please give that a click. It is the easiest way to support me. I appreciate you all so much. I will likely be doing, I am trying to pick up the pace on these videos, so expect casual calibrations every 3 to 4 days. Now that I'm talking about everything, I'm not just talking about Ukraine. I don't have to spend an hour and a half here talking about just Ukraine. I can kind of bounce around. I'll be doing these every 3 or 4 days, and then the Ukraine update videos will be coming out as the updates are relevant, which will probably be every 3 to 4 days as well. So just kind of be getting used to that schedule. That's what I'm going to try to stick on, and I'm going to keep myself to that because I think that you guys care about these videos, and that makes me care about them. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and I will see you later on this week, hopefully. Goodbye, guys.